Idia was the mother of Esiji, who reigned as Oba of the Edo people from 1504 to 1550. It has been argued that Idia therefore was the true power behind the throne of her son. She played a significant role in the rise and reign of her son, being described as a great warrior who fought relentlessly before and during her son's reign as Oba of the Edo people. Welcome to R&I TV, and this is the Did You Know segment with me, your host, Espila Caleb. And this is the story of Queen Idia of Benin, also known as the Dahomey. Idia first entered the royal household because Ozolua, the Oba from 1483 until 1514, saw her dance, and after the dance he wanted to make Idia his wife. Idia and Oba Ozolua were married sometime before 1504, but historians are not positive about the exact date. As a result, Idia's parents helped prepare her for her future life in the palace by giving her certain medical herbs. She was known to be very intelligent because she was able to retrieve the throne for her son, and she was able to protect her son from his enemies such as Arualan, who is Esiji's stepbrother. Another interesting concept Idia was known for was her womb of Orhui, which is a phrase that meant that her womb defied the odds. These odds were that her son Esiji was not first in line for the throne, rather Esiji was originally third in line for the throne. Although in the end and against all the odds, Esiji became the Oba. Ogidogbu, the first in line for the throne as Oba, became illegitimate for the throne because he was crippled due to playing with his brothers Arualan and Esiji. The people of Benin thought that Idia had planned this because Idia was known to possess magical powers. This also shows how the people of Benin thought that she was able to both wreak havoc and create havoc. This resulted in Arualan being next in his line of throne, but he saw Esiji as a threat. Consequently, Esiji wanted to assassinate his brother. Arualan later saw that Esiji is a threat because of his mother Idia. Although the reason Arualan did not assassinate his brother was because he knew that Esiji's mother Idia had the skill of magical arts. This was contradictory because Arualan did not have the skills. There have been many representations of Queen Idia because Queen Idia represented a key part of Benin's imperial courtry culture. Also, Idia was so influential because of her determination. Overall, Idia was described as a strong-willed, beautiful, intelligent, and wise woman. Esiji instituted the title of Ioba, that is the Queen Mother, and conferred it on his mother along with Egue Ioba, that is Palace of the Queen Mother. Queen Idia became more popular when it was decided that her face should be used as a sculpture to represent a Nigerian festival, Festac 77. That was how the face of the Queen Mother came into art till the present day. She was supposed to be killed after the crowning of her son as the Oba, according to then the tradition, but her son Esiji secretly took her to hide her in a room that was to be entered by only those authorized to do so. He did this in order to protect her from being killed, and it worked until he was able to make changes to the tradition, which cancelled the law. After that, Queen Idia returned freely to the palace and ruled together with her son, helping him fight spiritually and physically over his enemies, which helped him during his reign as Oba. Before she died, she trained her son's wife in her ways so her departure would be met unnoticed. With this, one might be able to say that she was a beautiful person in the art that she studied. Before we go to the next story, that is on the victory over the Igala people, remember to like, subscribe, and share into our videos, because we do this each and every week on Wednesdays. Also, we do interviews, exclusive interviews with various people, because we want to give more information about Africa. We want people to understand Africa better, the history of Africa, things that we never learned in school. So keep it locked every time in R&I TV. And remember to like, subscribe, and share. And always remember to leave a comment below. Victory over the Igala people. Subsequently, the neighboring Igala people sent warriors across the Benue River to wrest control of Benin's northern territories. SEG conquered the Igala, re-establishing the unity and military strength of the kingdom. His mother Idia received much of the credit for these victories, as her political counsel, together with her magical powers and medicinal knowledge, were viewed as critical elements of SEG's success on the battlefield. The representations of Queen Idia comprise of a group of commemorative heads from medieval Benin that represents Queen Idia, mother of Obaseje, that is 1504 to 1550, made during the early 16th century at the Benin court. The representation of Queen Idia discussed here include the bronze head of Queen Idia, that is in the British Museum in London, a pendant ivory mask of Queen Idia that is at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, and finally, an ivory mask of Queen Idia in the British Museum in London. Several artistic representations of Idia were looted from Benin City during the British Benin expedition of 1897 and are now held in museums around the world. Alongside other Benin bronzes, there have been the subject of calls for their repatriation. A Queen Idia ivory mask held in British Museum became the symbol of the Second World Black and African Festival of Art and Culture, FESTAC, held in Nigeria in 1977. In Eddie Ugbama's 1979 film, The Mask, the Nigerian hero steals a Queen Idia's mask back from the British Museum. The imagined childhood of Queen Idia is the focus of an award-winning children's book titled Idia of the Benin Kingdom, written by Ekua Ire. The Brass Heads. The brass heads of Queen Idia are a group of 4 commemorative brass heads from medieval Benin that represents Idia, mother of Oba Isije. Made during the early 16th century at the Benin court, the 4 cast brass heads of the Queen are known and are currently in the collections of the British Museum in London. It is important to note that although these are commonly called bronze heads because of the composition of metalwork from Benin, were initially thought to be bronze and were only later identified as brass. Therefore, a more accurate description is the brass heads of Queen Idia. These brass heads are among the many Benin works of art that entered the European market after the invasion of the British at an event as the Benin Expedition of 1897. The brass heads were made using a lost wax casting technique in the early 16th century. The image located at the British Museum is a realistic representation of a young woman from the Benin court who wears a high-pointed ukpe or kuhe crown of the lattice-shaped red coral beads. The hairstyle is referred to as a parrot's beak hairstyle and was only allowed to be worn by the Ioba and the major war chief. Above and between the eyes are two bands that were inset with iron. These reflect the oral tale of how Idia came to be the Ioba. The tale states that an oracle had told Idia to place medicine on 2 incisions above her eyes in order to prevent the Oba Ozolua from picking her for his wife. Oba Ozolua then went on to defeat the oracle premonitions, and Idia became the mother of Oba Esiji. When Oba Esiji commissioned these brass heads to be made and placed in Idia's memorial palace, he ensured that they had these incisions in order to honor how Idia came to be the first Ioba of Benin. Above each eyebrow are engraved 4 cicatrices. The sophisticated techniques and design of the 4 heads suggested that they were made in the early 16th century. Commissioned by Idia's son Oba Esiji and created by the Imperial Guild of Brass Casters that was founded by the previous Oba Ogolua, Queen Idia played an instrumental role in her son's successful military campaigns against neighboring tribes and factions. After her death, Oba Esiji ordered the dedicatory heads of the queen to be made, to be placed in front of the altars or in the Queen Mother's palace. The heads were designed to honor her military achievements and ceremonial power. The British Museum head was presented to museum by Sir William Ingram in 1897. Ivory masks. Idia's face is one of the most well-known faces of African royal women. There are 2 extant masks of Queen Idia that are made from ivory. One Benin ivory mask is located in the British Museum, while the pendant ivory mask is located in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. These 2 ivory masks are almost identical to each other, and both of these masks were made around the 16th century. The Benin ivory mask is about 9 inches tall and 5 inches wide. Ivory masks were usually carved free-handed with a chisel and a file without a design to follow. Obas paid homage to the queen's mother by wearing a carved ivory pendant masks of the Ayoba to ward off bad spirits. The functions of these ivory masks were to commemorate Yoba Idia, and the piece was to appear at an altar dedicated to her. Also, Oba Esiji wore these masks during ceremonies. They were commissioned by Oba Esiji Hassan. The 2 parallel lines down Queen Idia's face were caused by her parents because they did not want her to become Oba Ozolua's wife. They were advised in an oracle that they needed to scar her face to make her less beautiful so that Ozolua would not marry her. Also, her parents had medicinal potions placed in her scars by a divine physician in Benin. These medicinal potions were to assure that Oba Ozolua would stay away. This in the end did not work to repel Oba Ozolua. He sensed that something was wrong with Idia, but was quick enough to realize that she had been scarred and poisoned, so he was able to neutralize the medicine. The crown on both of ivory masks of Idias displays Portuguese soldiers. To the Benin culture, the Portuguese arrival from the seas with great amounts of wealth made them people of the spirit realm who came to bring wealth and power to Oba. The white of the ivory represents purity and is associated with the god of the sea, Olokun. Olokun's wealth and fertility is the counterpart of the Oba. Ivory became Benin's main commerce commodity following the arrival of Portuguese traders who brought ivory in Benin. Also along the crown of the mask there are mudfish, which lived on land and lived in the sea, representing the duality of the Oba's humanness and goddess. Overall, the crown represents both the human and the divine. The depiction of Portuguese soldiers also shows us the presence of European soldiers. These masks overall are very important to the Benin because they give a physical appearance and the presence of Queen Idia. The Benin ivory mask has an intricate pattern as a collar white with the pendant ivory mask has the design of Portuguese soldiers. Finally, Benin ivory mask is in better condition when compared to the pendant ivory mask. That was it, folks. Remember to like, subscribe, and share, and keep it locked only on R&I TV for this and more videos each and every week. My name is Espila Caleb. See you next time. See you next time.
Oh, you should be trapping.